The World Cup is sold as the beautiful game, but its history is not beautiful. Behind the cheers were dictators, war, propaganda, and scandals. In 1934, football was turned into a weapon of political power. Then war became so massive, the World Cup simply disappeared. In Brazil, one match broke a nation's heart in front of nearly 200,000 people. In 1986, millions watched as Maradona scored with his hand. The referee missed it, and football history was changed forever. In 2006, Zidane walked into his final match as a football legend. But one shocking moment turned his goodbye into a scene the world would never forget. Today, the World Cup is bigger than ever. Billions celebrate the goals, the heroes, and the unforgettable moments. But behind every tournament, there are stories the world rarely sees. This is the dark history of the FIFA World Cup. Long before the World Cup became a global phenomenon, a French football visionary named Jules Rimet had a dream to create a tournament where nations could compete through football, not war. In 1930, 13 teams traveled across the world for the first FIFA World Cup in Uruguay. There were no billion-dollar sponsors, no global broadcast, just nations chasing football glory. Uruguay became the first champion, and a new global obsession was born. But it would not take long before powerful leaders discovered football's true influence. In 1930, Rimet's dream finally became reality. 13 nations crossed oceans to Uruguay, beginning a tournament that no one knew would one day capture the entire planet. There were no billion-dollar sponsors, new television on pier, and no superstar brands. Just players, nations, and the dream of becoming the first world champion. The host nation Uruguay defeated Argentina and became the first world champion. A small tournament had started a worldwide obsession, but as millions fell in love with the game, powerful leaders noticed something else. Football was not only entertainment, football was influence. Just 4 years after the first World Cup, the tournament arrived in Italy. But this time, one of the world's most powerful dictators saw football differently. Italy won the tournament, but decades later, questions remained about politics, pressure, and how much influence surrounded the competition. But soon, even football was powerless. A conflict bigger than the game itself was about to stop the World Cup completely. As the World Cup was growing, the world around it was collapsing. By 1939, football dreams were replaced by the reality of a global war. The tournaments planned for 1942 and 1946 never happened. For 12 years, the biggest football competition on earth disappeared. Many players who once dreamed of playing for their countries faced a different future. Not inside stadiums, but on battlefields. But even after destruction, football survived. People still played because the game gave them something war could not hope. After 12 years of silence, the World Cup finally returned in Brazil. But its comeback would create one of football's greatest heartbreaks. In 1950, Brazil did not just expect to win the World Cup. Many believed victory was already destiny. Almost 200,000 people filled the Maracanã, expecting to witness Brazil become world champion at home. But Uruguay entered the stadium as underdogs with nothing to lose, and they refused to play the role Brazil expected. Then Uruguay scored. And in one unforgettable moment, the loudest stadium on earth fell into a silence no one could explain. Uruguay won 2-1. Brazil lost more than a match that day. It lost a dream in front of the entire nation. The defeat became known as the Maracanazo, a national wound that football fans still remember generations later. After 1950, football in Brazil was no longer just joy. It became identity, pressure, and the burden of redemption. In 1962, the World Cup arrived in Chile, but one match would become remembered not for beautiful football, but for chaos. Chile against Italy was supposed to be a football match. Instead, it became one of the most violent games in World Cup history. Fouls, punches, and anger took over. The referees struggled to keep control as the world watched in disbelief. The situation became so extreme that police had to enter the pitch multiple times to restore order during the match. Around the world, people questioned how football's greatest tournament had turned into such a battle. As football entered a new era, the World Cup became bigger, brighter. But the controversies were far from over. In 1986, Argentina faced England in a match carrying emotions far beyond football. 4 years earlier, the two nations had been at war. At the center of it all was Diego Maradona, a football genius carrying the hopes of an entire nation on his shoulders. Then came the moment nobody expected. Maradona used his hand to score, the referee allowed it, and football history changed forever. Around the world, fans argued. Was it cheating? Was it clever? Or was it simply part of football history? But just minutes after the controversy, Maradona created a moment nobody could question. Starting from his own half, he carried the ball past England's defenders one by one. In only seconds, he went from the most controversial player on the field to the creator of what many call the greatest goal in World Cup history. In one match, Maradona showed the two sides of football, controversy and magic, imperfection and greatness. 20 years after Maradona shocked the world, another football legend entered the World Cup stage for the final time. For Zidane, the 2006 final was supposed to be the perfect goodbye. One last game, one last trophy, and one final chapter of an incredible career. But in extra time, everything changed. After an exchange with Marco Materazzi, Zidane reacted with a headbutt. A moment of emotion became the final image of his legendary career. As Zidane walked away, the World Cup trophy stood only steps away. The ending millions imagined disappeared forever. The moment did not erase Zidane's greatness. Instead, it reminded the world that even the greatest players are still human. 64 years after the heartbreak of 1950, the World Cup returned to Brazil. This time, a new generation believed they could finally rewrite history. Against Germany in the semi-final, millions expected a battle between football giants. But nobody expected what happened next. Germany scored once, then again and again. Within minutes, the dream became a nightmare. The world watched in disbelief as Brazil suffered one of the most shocking defeats in World Cup history. For many Brazilians, this was more than a football defeat. Football was connected to their national identity, their pride, and generations of memories. Just like the heartbreak of 1950, another World Cup at home ended in silence. A scoreline became a moment that millions would never forget.
Back into Lahm. Square. 6-0 it is.
As the goals kept coming, the noise inside the stadium slowly disappeared. Fans who arrived expecting a celebration could only watch in disbelief. Some cried, some stood frozen, some simply stared at the scoreboard, trying to understand what they were seeing. This was Brazil, the country of Pel, samba, and beautiful football. But on that night, the nation famous for creating football joy experienced one of the quietest moments in its history.
The worst thing I've ever seen.
After the match, coach Luis Felipe Scolari accepted responsibility for the defeat, calling it the worst day of his life. Across Brazil, millions struggled to understand how their greatest passion had turned into their greatest pain. The World Cup creates heroes, but sometimes it also creates moments of heartbreak remembered for generations. While billions watched the goals, celebrations, and unforgettable moments on the field, another side of the World Cup was happening far away from the stadium lights. Over decades, the World Cup transformed from a simple tournament into one of the most powerful events on Earth, involving governments, broadcasters, sponsors, and billions of dollars. In 2015, football's governing world was shaken. Investigations into corruption exposed questions about money, influence, and decisions made behind closed doors. For many fans, it revealed that the biggest battles in football were not always played on grass. As the World Cup grew bigger, hosting it became about more than football. Questions appeared about cost, politics, workers, and whether the dream of hosting was always worth the price. But after all the scandals, heartbreaks, and controversies, people still returned to the World Cup. Because for 90 minutes, billions of people from different cultures share the same emotions. For almost a century, the World Cup has carried unforgettable stories. Stories of impossible victories, painful defeats, heroes rising, and legends falling. Maybe the World Cup became the world's biggest event because it reflects who we are. The beauty, the mistakes, the dreams, and the emotions. It was never just about 22 players chasing a ball. It was always about people. Behind every World Cup, there are stories of joy and heartbreak, unity and controversy, greatness and human weakness. The beautiful game was never perfect, but perhaps that is why billions around the world see themselves in it.